The coffee grew cold in Tom Reed's hands as he watched another Korthik warship dock at the station. These aliens never seemed to sleep, always moving, always trading, always making noise about their mighty empire. Tom smiled and nodded at the Korthik captain who walked past, a massive creature covered in scales that could probably tear a human apart with its bare hands. The alien barely glanced at him. 300 years of this. 300 years of being seen as nothing more than useful workers who fixed things and moved cargo. Tom had grown used to it. His grandfather had told him stories about the early days when humans first made contact with the galaxy. Back then, humans were excited and eager to join the galactic community. They thought they would be welcomed as equals. Instead, they got a single trade station on the edge of nowhere and a pat on the head. The Meridian Station was home to about 5,000 humans, all of them supposedly just traders and engineers. They processed raw materials from human space and sent back manufactured goods. Simple work for simple people, or so the galaxy believed. Tom walked through the busy corridors where humans worked alongside dozens of alien species. The Telani used their mind powers to move heavy crates. The Vorthan worked in large groups, chattering in their high-pitched voices. The humans just did their jobs quietly. Dr. Amy Walsh finished her shift in the medical bay and headed to her real office. The one that didn't officially exist? She took 3 different routes through maintenance tunnels before reaching a door that looked like any other storage room. Inside, banks of computers hummed quietly, processing data from across the galaxy. Amy was not just a doctor. She was the station's intelligence officer, one of thousands scattered throughout human space. The screen in front of her showed the latest reports from human agents embedded in alien governments. The Korthik military was planning new expansion. In the Outer Rim, the Tilani were developing stronger psychic weapons. The Vorthan were building more ships than they had ever built before. Amy fed all of this information into the network that connected every human outpost in the galaxy. Earth was listening. Earth was always listening. Tom made his way to the station's command center, a modest room compared to the massive bridge of a Korthik dreadnought. The human crew worked at their stations, monitoring traffic and managing the flow of goods. To any observer, it looked like a simple operation. They would never notice the hidden sensors that tracked every ship's weapons, the passive scanners that analyzed alien technology, or the communication array that could tap into most galactic networks. Lieutenant Dan Cooper looked up from his console. "The Nexari observer is asking for our weekly reports again," he said quietly. Tom nodded. The Nexari were an old species that seemed to watch everything but rarely interfered. They had been keeping a closer eye on human activities lately, which made Tom nervous. Humans had worked very hard to appear harmless and predictable. If the Nexari suspected something, it could ruin everything. "Send them the standard reports," Tom said. "Production numbers, trade volumes, maintenance schedules. Nothing they haven't seen before." The real reports went through different channels. Encrypted messages that bounced through relay stations before reaching Earth. Information about alien, military movements, political changes, and technological developments. The Department of Galactic Affairs had been building the most complete intelligence database in galactic history, one alien conversation at a time. Amy finished reviewing the latest batch of reports and sent them on to Earth. Her agents had been busy this week. A human engineer working on a Korthik ship had discovered a weakness in their shield generators. A human diplomat attached to the Talani embassy had learned about their military academy's training methods. A human merchant traveling through Vorthan space had mapped their supply lines and identified key choke points. The galaxy saw humans as useful but unremarkable. They were good with machines and worked hard, but they lacked the natural advantages that made other species powerful. No psychic abilities like the Talani, no natural armor like the Korthik, no overwhelming numbers like the Vorthan. Just clever hands and curious minds. That curiosity had served humanity well. While other species focused on their own territories and interests, humans had quietly learned about everyone else. They studied alien languages, cultures, and technologies. They made friends and built relationships. They earned trust. Tom's personal computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from his sister Lisa, who worked at a human colony in the Andromeda sector. She wrote about her job at the local hospital, her new apartment, and the weather. Anyone reading the message would see a normal family conversation. Tom saw something else entirely. The real message was hidden in the spacing between words, the choice of phrases, and the order of topics. Lisa was actually a deep cover agent working inside the Vorthan government. Her message reported troop movements, political tensions, and resource allocation. She had been in position for 15 years, slowly working her way up through the alien bureaucracy. Thousands of humans like Lisa lived throughout the galaxy. They had families, jobs, and friends among the alien species. They were teachers, doctors, engineers, and shopkeepers. They were also the eyes and ears of humanity, watching and learning and reporting back home. The galaxy had made a mistake 3 centuries ago. Instead of welcoming humanity as equals, they had dismissed them as useful servants. They had given humans access to their worlds, their governments, and their militaries while assuming they were too primitive to be a threat. They had let humans learn their secrets because they believed humans were too weak to use that knowledge. Tom looked out at the busy docking bays where alien ships came and went. Each one was scanned, cataloged, and analyzed. The crews were observed, and their conversations recorded. The cargo was inspected and sometimes sampled. The galaxy's trade networks had become humanity's intelligence network, and the aliens had built it themselves. Earth was patient. Earth was thorough. Earth was ready. The quiet ones had been listening for 300 years. They had learned everything there was to know about their neighbors. They had identified every weakness, every strength, and every possible threat. They had prepared for every scenario and built contingencies for every contingency. The galaxy still saw humans as harmless traders and clever engineers. That was exactly what humanity wanted them to see. The mask had been perfect for 3 centuries, and it would remain perfect until the moment came to remove it. Tom finished his coffee and returned to his duties. There were ships to service, cargo to move, and reports to file. The daily business of the galaxy continued, and humanity continued to watch and learn and wait. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The ancient halls of the Galactic Council had seen many debates over the centuries, but none quite like this one. High Counselor Vex of the Nexari stood before the assembled representatives of 47 species, his pale blue skin glowing with the bioluminescent patterns that indicated deep concern. The holographic displays around him showed charts, graphs, and analysis that had taken his people months to compile. The human problem has reached a critical threshold, Vex announced, his voice carrying the authority of a species that had observed galactic politics for over 10,000 years. We can no longer ignore the patterns we have identified. The massive Korthak representative, General Brock, leaned forward in his reinforced chair. His scarred face showed the skepticism that most species felt toward the Nexari's tendency to see threats in everything. You speak of patterns, but humans have been nothing but cooperative for 3 centuries. They follow our laws, pay their taxes, and cause no trouble. Vex activated a holographic display that showed human population growth across the galaxy. Observe their expansion rate. Observe their integration into our governments and military forces. Observe their tendency to ask questions about everything while revealing nothing about themselves. The Tilani representative, a graceful being whose thoughts flickered visibly around her translucent head, spoke with the combined voice of her collective consciousness. We have monitored human thoughts for decades. They show no signs of aggressive intent. Their minds are focused on trade, family, and simple pleasures. That is precisely the problem, Vex replied. Every species we have encountered shows predictable thought patterns. Fear, aggression, curiosity, ambition. Humans show these traits, but they are ... controlled, directed, as if they are performing rather than simply being. The Vorthan delegation buzzed in their rapid-fire language before their spokesman translated. The Vorthen Syndicate has worked closely with human merchants for generations. They are reliable partners who understand the value of mutual benefit. We see no evidence of deception. Vex had expected this resistance. The galaxy had grown comfortable with humanity's presence, and comfort bred complacency. He activated another display, this one showing comparative behavioral analysis. Consider the Deltarune uprising 2 decades ago. Every species in the affected sector showed stress responses, increased military preparation, and political maneuvering. The humans showed none of these responses despite having significant interests in the region. Perhaps they are simply not as emotional as other species, suggested the Crystalline Harmony delegate, whose words chimed like bells. Or perhaps they already knew the outcome, Vex countered. My analysis indicates that humans possess what we term apex predator dormancy. They appear passive and harmless while they study their environment and prepare for action. When they do act, it is sudden, decisive, and devastating. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The concept of apex predators was familiar to most species, but the idea that an entire civilization could exhibit such behavior was disturbing. General Brock's hand moved instinctively to his weapon. You suggest that humans are taunting us? I suggest that they are preparing to dominate us, Vex replied. Consider their behavior patterns. They seek positions in our governments, our military forces, our research institutions. They learn our languages, our customs, our technologies. They form relationships with key individuals across all sectors of galactic society. The Tilani representative's thoughts flickered more rapidly. This could be explained by natural curiosity and adaptability. Humans are social creatures who seek to understand their environment. Vex activated his final display, a complex web showing human connections throughout the galaxy. No species has ever integrated so thoroughly into galactic society while maintaining such strong connections to their home world. Human communication networks span the entire galaxy, yet they reveal nothing of significance about their internal activities. The evidence was overwhelming when viewed as a whole. Humans were not the simple traders and engineers they appeared to be. They were conducting the most sophisticated intelligence operation in galactic history, and they had been doing it for 3 centuries. What do you propose? Asked the Korthic general. Immediate termination of the human species, Vex replied. Without hesitation? We have identified the threat before it can fully manifest. We have the opportunity to act while they still believe we are unaware of their true nature. The debate that followed lasted 18 hours. Representatives argued about evidence, ethics, and practicalities. Some species called for investigation rather than action. Others demanded proof of human aggression before considering such drastic measures. The Nexari presented more data, more analysis, more projections of what humanity might become if left unchecked. In the end, fear won over wisdom. The vote was close but decisive. 47 species agreed that humanity represented an existential threat to galactic civilization. The decision was made to eliminate them before they could reveal their true capabilities. The Korthic Empire would provide the heavy assault vessels, their massive dreadnoughts capable of reducing planets to ash. The Tilani Collective would contribute their psychic warriors and orbital bombardment ships. The Vorthen Syndicate would deploy their vast fleets to ensure no human ship escaped the coming purge. Other species would provide support, intelligence, and resources. The attack would be swift and overwhelming. Every human world would be hit simultaneously. Every human ship would be destroyed. Every human outpost would be eliminated. The galaxy would mourn the loss of a useful species, but they would sleep safely knowing that the threat had been ended. Admiral Ben Hayes received the intelligence report while reviewing defensive positions around Luna, the human deep cover agent. Embedded in the Nexari government had risked everything to get this information to Earth. The message was encrypted 17 times and hidden in a routine trade manifest. But its contents were clear. The galaxy was coming to kill them all. Hayes smiled grimly as he activated the Prometheus network. Across the galaxy, every human agent received the same message. The 3 centuries of preparation were over. The time for hiding was done. The galaxy wanted to see humanity's true nature, and they were about to get their wish. The first phase of the plan activated automatically. Human agents began sabotaging communication networks, disrupting supply lines, and eliminating key alien military leaders. The second phase would begin when the alien fleet entered human space. The third phase would show the galaxy what happened when you threatened. Humanity's children, the quiet ones, had been waiting for this moment. They had hoped it would never come, but they had prepared for it nonetheless. The galaxy had made its choice, and now they would live with the consequences, the war that the galaxy started to prevent. Human dominance would end with humanity ruling the stars. The Nexari had been right about one thing: humans were apex predators. But they had misunderstood what that meant. Apex predators protected their territory. And the galaxy had just invaded humanity's territory. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was hungry. The first alien ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a plague of metal locusts. Admiral Ben Hayes watched from the bridge of the Retribution as sensor readings flooded in. 10,000 ships, maybe more. The largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history, all of it aimed at humanity's heart. "Sir, we're detecting Korthak dreadnoughts in the vanguard," reported Lieutenant Sam Torres from the tactical station. "At least 200 of them. Behind them, Talani, psychic assault ships, and Vorthan swarm fighters. They're not holding anything back." Hayes nodded grimly. The intelligence reports had been accurate. The galaxy was coming to end humanity once and for all. They had brought overwhelming force because they believed humans were hiding advanced technology. They had no idea that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology at all. It was patience. The alien fleet moved through the outer system methodically, destroying automated monitoring stations and scanning for hidden defenses. They found exactly what they expected to find: a modest defensive network that might have been impressive 3 centuries ago, but was laughably obsolete by current galactic standards. General Brock commanded the alien forces from his flagship. The devastation. The massive Korthak dreadnought was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Around him, his staff monitored the advance with professional efficiency. The humans had orbital platforms around, their gas giants, weapon satellites near their asteroid belt, and a defensive grid around their homeworld. All of it was weak, predictable, and doomed. "Begin the assault," Brock ordered. "Target their outer defenses first. Let them see what happens to species that threaten galactic peace." The first wave of plasma fire lit up the darkness between the planets. Korthak heavy weapons lanced out across millions of kilometers to strike human defensive positions. Orbital platforms exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Weapon satellites simply vanished under the overwhelming firepower. The human defensive grid around Jupiter and Saturn collapsed within minutes. On Earth, emergency broadcasts filled the airwaves. The news anchors tried to remain calm as they reported the destruction of humanity's outer defenses. Military spokesmen assured the public that the home defense fleet was ready to protect the planet. Religious leaders called for prayer. Parents hugged their children and wondered if they would see another sunrise. The alien fleet pressed forward, confidence growing with each easy victory. The humans were fighting exactly as expected, deploying their forces in conventional patterns and following standard military doctrine. Their ships were well built, but nothing special. Their weapons were effective, but not revolutionary. Their tactics were competent but predictable. The second wave of the attack focused on the asteroid belt, where human mining operations provided raw materials for their industrial base. Vorthan swarm fighters swept through the region like a metallic storm, destroying everything in their path. The humans fought back with desperate courage, but their lighter ships were no match for the alien numbers. The Talani psychic assault. Ships moved into position around Mars, preparing to break the minds of human defenders before the final push to Earth. Their mental powers had crushed dozens of species throughout galactic history. They reached out with their collective consciousness, seeking to paralyze human resistance with waves of fear and despair. Instead, They found nothing. The human minds they touched were shielded by technology the Talani had never encountered. Neural dampening fields that turned their psychic attacks into meaningless noise. The Talani pressed harder, pouring more power into their assault, but the humans remained unaffected. "Sir," reported the Talani fleet commander, "we cannot penetrate their mental defenses. They have some form of psychic shielding we have never seen before." General Brock frowned. The intelligence reports had mentioned nothing about advanced human defensive technology. "Continue the assault. We have overwhelming firepower. Their tricks will not save them." The alien fleet reached Earth's moon, where the final human defensive positions waited. The lunar defense grid was impressive for a human installation, but it was still just metal and energy weapons. The Korthic dreadnoughts prepared to demonstrate the difference between human engineering and superior alien technology. That was when humanity revealed its true face. The destroyed orbital platforms around Jupiter suddenly blazed back to life. Their apparent destruction nothing more than sophisticated holographic camouflage. The mining facilities in the asteroid belt shed their disguises to reveal massive weapon installations that had been hidden for over a century. The lunar defense grid activated systems that defied known physics, generating energy readings that made the alien sensors scream warnings. Admiral Hayes activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Retribution. Execute Protocol 7. Show them what we really are." Across the system, human vessels that had been pretending to be destroyed suddenly reappeared. Stealth technology that had been refined over 3 centuries dropped away to reveal the true size and power of the human fleet. The aliens found themselves facing not a few hundred human ships, but over 50,000 vessels that had been hiding in plain sight. The human dreadnoughts were larger than anything the galaxy had ever built. Their weapons fired projectiles that punched through Korthek shields like paper. Their armor absorbed Talani psychic attacks without effect. Their fighter screens moved with precision that turned the Vorthan numerical advantage into a liability. But the real shock came when the aliens realized that humanity had been fighting with their hands tied behind their backs. Every human defensive position, every tactical decision, every apparent weakness had been carefully calculated to lure the alien fleet into the perfect killing ground. The asteroid belt erupted with hidden weapon platforms that had been disguised as mining equipment. The gas giants revealed orbital fortresses that had been hiding in their atmospheres for decades. The outer system filled with human ships that had been waiting in the cold dark between the planets. General Brock watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled. The humans were not just fighting back, they were demonstrating a level of strategic planning and technological sophistication that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. His flagship shields collapsed under the impact of human kinetic projectiles that moved at significant fractions of light speed. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence said they were primitive." The answer came from Captain Tom Reed, now commanding the assault carrier Vindication. His ship had been disguised as a simple trading vessel for 3 centuries, but it was actually one of the most advanced warships ever built. Reed's voice reached every alien ship in the system through their own communication networks. "You spent 300 years watching us," Reed said calmly. "You saw what we wanted you to see. You learned what we wanted you to learn. You believed what we wanted you to believe. And now you know the price of underestimating humanity." The battle for Earth lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the human fleet had captured over half the alien vessels and sent the remainder fleeing in panic. The galaxy's greatest military force had been broken by a species they had dismissed as primitive traitors. The quiet ones had been waiting for this moment for 3 centuries. They had prepared for every possible scenario and built contingencies for every contingency. The galaxy had come to eliminate a threat, and instead they had awakened a sleeping giant. The war had begun, and humanity was just getting started. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 47 species filled the ancient chamber, their voices raised in anger, fear, and desperate confusion. The news from Sol System had shattered everything. They thought they knew about the galaxy's balance of power. The mighty Korthic Empire had sent 200 of their finest dreadnoughts to Earth. Less than 50 had returned, most of them severely damaged and carrying tales of impossible human weapons. The Tilani collective psychic warriors, who had broken the minds of countless enemies, had been rendered helpless by technology they could not understand. The Vorthan Syndicate's overwhelming numerical advantage had been turned against them. By human tactical superiority, this is impossible. General Brock slammed his massive fist on the council table, the sound echoing through the chamber like thunder. His scarred face bore fresh wounds from the battle, and his eyes held the haunted look of someone who had seen his worldview shattered. Humans are traders and engineers. They fix our machines and move our cargo. High Counselor Vex of the Nexari stood quietly at his position, his pale blue skin flickering with the patterns that indicated deep thought. He had warned the council about the human threat, but even he had not anticipated the scope of their deception. The data streaming in from the Sol system painted a picture of military and technological capabilities that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. The question is not how this is possible, Vex said calmly. The question is what we do about it now. The Telani representative's thoughts flickered rapidly around her translucent head, visible manifestations of her collective consciousness struggling to process the new reality. We have been monitoring human thoughts for decades. We detected no signs of advanced military preparation. How did they hide this from us? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Amy Walsh appeared on the chamber's main display screen. Her image broadcast from an unknown location. The human woman who had served as a simple medical officer on the Meridian Trade Station now stood in what appeared to be a vast command center filled with screens, computers, and personnel. Because we wanted you to see exactly what you saw, Amy said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent her life in the shadows. I am Dr. Amy Walsh, Director of Human Intelligence Operations. For 3 centuries, my organization has been conducting the most comprehensive espionage operation in galactic history. The council chamber fell silent as the implications began to sink in. The helpful human doctors, the skilled human engineers, the friendly human merchants who had become part of their daily lives were all part of a vast intelligence network. Amy continued, her voice calm and professional. Every human who left Earth's system carried orders to observe, learn, and report. Every trade negotiation was intelligence gathering. Every cultural exchange was reconnaissance. Every friendship was an opportunity to study your weaknesses. The display screen behind Amy came alive with data streams showing the scope of human infiltration. Organizational charts revealed human agents embedded in every major government, military force, and corporation in the galaxy. Communication networks showed the flow of information from thousands of sources back to Earth, personnel files, identified humans who had spent decades building relationships with key alien leaders. The Korthic general who trusted his human aid. With classified military plans, Amy said, highlighting specific examples. The Telani researcher who shared psychic techniques with her human assistant. The Vorthan administrator who gave his human friend access to supply chain data. All of them helped us prepare for this day. The Vorthan delegation buzzed frantically in their rapid-fire language before their spokesman found his voice. The human merchant who has been trading with us for 20 years, he has been to our children's bonding ceremonies. He's family to us, and his reports helped us map your military infrastructure, Amy replied without emotion. The bonds you formed with humans were real. The affection was genuine, but we never forgot that we were operating in hostile territory. General Brock's hand moved to his weapon before he remembered that this was a diplomatic session. You speak of hostile territory, but we welcomed you into our space. We gave you opportunities to trade and prosper. You gave us a single trade station on the edge of nowhere and told us to be grateful, Amy corrected. You treated us as useful servants rather than equals. You assumed we were too primitive to be a threat while allowing us access to your most sensitive operations. The truth was more devastating than any weapon. The galaxy had not just underestimated humanity. They had built the infrastructure for their own downfall. Every human embassy, every mixed crew, every cultural exchange had been an opportunity for intelligence gathering. The aliens had invited their enemies into their homes and never realized the danger. President David Kim appeared on the main screen, his image replacing Amy's. The leader of the human government stood on the steps of the United Nations building. On Earth, with the blue sky and white clouds of humanity's homeworld visible behind him, his message was being broadcast to every inhabited planet in the galaxy. Citizens of the galaxy, Kim began, his voice carrying the weight of 3 centuries of preparation. Humanity did not want this war. We hoped to coexist peacefully with our galactic neighbors. We sought to trade, to learn, and to grow together. The display showed images of human settlements throughout the galaxy, families and communities that had been built over generations, children who had grown up thinking of alien worlds as home, adults who had formed genuine friendships with members of other species. But you chose to see us as a threat to be eliminated rather than a partner to be welcomed, Kim continued. You voted to exterminate our species based on fear and prejudice. You attacked our homeworld with the largest military force in galactic history. The images shifted to show the aftermath of the battle in Sol System. Captured alien vessels being towed by human ships. Rescued alien crew members receiving medical treatment from human doctors. Prisoners of war being treated with dignity and respect despite their attempt to commit genocide. We defended ourselves because we had no choice, Kim said. We revealed our true capabilities because concealment was no longer possible. We fought with the strength of a people who refused to be victims. The final part of Kim's message was both an ultimatum and an offer. The war will continue until humanity's survival is guaranteed. Any species that wishes to surrender will be treated with honor and respect. Any species that continues to fight will face the full might of a civilization that has spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. The broadcast ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. The comfortable illusion of galactic superiority had been shattered. The species they had dismissed as primitive had been studying them, learning from them, and preparing to surpass them. High Counselor Vex spoke into the silence. The humans have done something unprecedented. They have transformed an entire species into an intelligence apparatus. Every human in the galaxy is a potential agent, observer, or operative. The magnitude of the deception was staggering. For 3 centuries, humanity had been building the most detailed intelligence database in galactic history. They knew the location of every military base, the capabilities of every weapon system, the personalities of every key leader. They had studied alien psychology, tactics, and technology while revealing nothing about their own capabilities. What do we do now? Asked the Crystalline Harmony delegate, her words chiming with desperation. The answer came from General Brock, his voice heavy with defeat. We surrender. We beg for mercy. We hope that humans are more honorable than we are. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about the price of prejudice and the danger of underestimating others. The quiet ones had been waiting and watching, and now they held the power to reshape the stars. The war was far from over, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had revealed its true nature, and the galaxy would never be the same. The final battle of the Galactic War took place not at Earth, but at the ancient world of Nexus Prime, where the last alliance of alien species had gathered their remaining forces. Admiral Ben Hayes stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching as human fleets converged on the galactic core from 6 different directions. The war that had started with humanity's near extinction had become a systematic conquest of the galaxy's greatest powers. 2 years had passed since the battle for Earth, and the galaxy had learned the true cost of awakening humanity's wrath. The Korthic Empire's mighty fleets had been systematically dismantled, their dreadnoughts either captured or destroyed. The Tellarny Collective's psychic warriors had been neutralized by human technology that turned their greatest strength into a liability. The Vorthan Syndicate's vast territories had been occupied by human forces, who understood their culture better than they understood themselves. Admiral, reported Captain Lisa Park from the communications station. We're receiving surrender offers from 17 different species. They're requesting terms? Hayes nodded grimly. The pattern had become familiar over the past months. As human forces advanced through the galaxy, entire civilizations chose surrender over destruction. The humans had demonstrated that they possessed not just overwhelming military power, but detailed knowledge of every species' weaknesses and fears. Standard terms, Hayes replied. Disarmament, reparations, and full disclosure of military capabilities. Any species that accepts will be treated with dignity and incorporated into the new order. The new order, Hayes still found it strange to think of humanity as the dominant power in the galaxy, but the evidence was impossible to ignore. Human fleets controlled the major trade routes. Human administrators governed former alien territories. Human technology had revolutionized everything from agriculture to space travel. On the surface of Nexus Prime, the remnants of the Galactic Alliance made their final stand. High Counselor Vex of the Nexari commanded the desperate defense, his pale blue skin flickering with patterns of determination and despair. Around him, the last representatives of dozens of species fought with the courage of the cornered. They offer us surrender, Vex announced to his staff. They promise fair treatment and representation in their new government. General Brock, his massive frame bearing the scars of a dozen battles, shook his head. They are conquerors wearing the mask of liberators. We have seen what happens to species that trust human promises. But even as he spoke, Brock knew the truth. The humans had kept their word to every species that had surrendered. Former enemies were being integrated into human society with rights and protections that many had never enjoyed under the old galactic order. The humans were not seeking to dominate through fear, but through competence and fairness. The battle for Nexus Prime lasted only 6 hours. Human forces had studied the planet's defenses for decades, and they knew exactly how to exploit every weakness. The alien alliance fought bravely, but courage could not overcome the systematic advantage of perfect intelligence and superior technology when the last alien stronghold fell. Vex found himself face to face with Tom Reed, the former trade station commander who now governed the Outer Rim territories. The human looked older, worn down by years of war and responsibility, but his eyes still held the same quiet intelligence that had made him such an effective spy. It's over, Reed said simply. The galaxy is ours. Vex studied the human's face, searching for signs of triumph or cruelty. Instead, he found only exhaustion and sadness. You have won everything. Why do you look defeated? Reed was quiet for a long moment before answering. Because this isn't what we wanted. We wanted to be your partners, not your masters. We wanted to explore the galaxy together, to learn from each other, to build something better than what came before. Then why did you prepare for war? Because we learned from history, Reed replied. Every species that has ever achieved spaceflight has eventually faced the choice between domination and extinction. We chose to be ready for that choice. The establishment of the Terran Federation marked the beginning of a new era in galactic history. Unlike the old Galactic Council, which had been dominated by a few powerful species, the Federation granted representation to all member worlds based on population and contribution rather than military strength. President David Kim announced the Federation's founding from the same steps where he had once declared humanity's determination to survive. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. 47 species had to learn to live together under human leadership, and humanity had to learn to be worthy of that responsibility. We are not your conquerors, Kim told the assembled representatives. We are your guardians. We will protect you from external threats, maintain peace between member species, and ensure that all voices are heard in the governance of our shared future. The transition was not without challenges. Some species struggled to accept human authority, while others worried about losing their cultural identity. But the humans had spent 3 centuries studying galactic civilization, and they understood the delicate balance required to maintain peace among diverse peoples. Dr. Amy Walsh, now serving as the Federation's Director of Cultural Integration, worked tirelessly to address these concerns. Her organization, once dedicated to espionage and infiltration, had been transformed into a diplomatic corps focused on understanding and cooperation. "We know you better than you know yourselves," Amy told a gathering of alien leaders. "We know your fears, your dreams, your strengths, and your weaknesses. We could use that knowledge to control you, but instead we choose to use it to help you flourish." The results spoke for themselves. Trade flourished under human protection. Scientific advancement accelerated as species shared knowledge freely. Conflicts that had simmered for centuries were resolved through human mediation and understanding. The galaxy had never been more peaceful or prosperous. Pirates and raiders found themselves facing human patrol fleets that seemed to anticipate their every move. Territorial disputes were settled by human negotiators who understood the historical and cultural factors behind each conflict. Resource allocation was managed by human administrators who had spent generations learning how to balance competing needs. Former High Counselor Vex now served as an advisor to the human administration, helping to bridge the gap between the old order and the new. He often reflected on the irony of the situation during his meetings with human officials. The Nexari had been correct in their assessment that humanity was an apex predator species, but they had fundamentally misunderstood what that meant. "We thought predators only destroyed," Vex told Tom Reed during one of their regular discussions. "We failed to understand that apex predators also protect their territory and maintain the balance of their ecosystem." Reed nodded from behind his desk in the governor's office on Meridian Station. The same facility that had once been a simple trade outpost was now the administrative center for dozens of star systems. "The galaxy was our territory from the moment we left Earth. We just had to wait for the right moment to claim it." The transformation of galactic society was not without its critics. Some humans argued that their species had sacrificed too much for the sake of integration. Some aliens claimed that human rule was simply another form of oppression. But the evidence was clear. The galaxy was safer, more prosperous, and more united than it had ever been. Captain Lisa Park, now an admiral in the Federation Navy, patrolled the outer rim where new species were still being discovered and integrated. Her ships carried diplomats and scientists rather than conquest forces, but they were ready for anything. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology, but their ability to adapt and prepare for any challenge. "We're receiving a distress signal from the Zeta Reticuli system," reported her communications officer. "Unknown alien vessels attacking a Federation colony?" Lisa smiled as she gave the order to intercept. The galaxy was vast, and there were still threats to face and challenges to overcome. But humanity was no longer the quiet species hiding in the shadows. They had taken their place as the guardians of civilization, and they would protect their territory with the same patience and determination they had shown for 3 centuries. The war that had begun with the galaxy's attempt to eliminate humanity had ended with humanity's ascension to galactic leadership. The Quiet Ones had been waiting not for conquest, but for the opportunity to prove that strength could be used to protect rather than destroy. The galaxy had attacked first, believing they were eliminating a threat. Instead, they had awakened guardians who would ensure that such a war could never happen again. The stars themselves bore witness to humanity's transformation from hidden observers to benevolent rulers. The waiting was over, the galaxy was safe, and humanity had finally found its true purpose among the stars.